Okay, so let's just jump right in. We've all seen the wild ride that digital collectibles have been on, right? But what if the next big thing isn't another piece of art, but something way more familiar? Look, there's no sugarcoating it. NFTs have a serious image problem. But what if the fix comes from one of the oldest forms of media on the entire planet? Just totally reimagined for today.
So, before we get to the really cool part, the solution, we have to understand the problem. Let's take a quick, honest look at the reputation issues that have kind of plagued that first wave of NFTs.
And if you've been following this space at all, none of these will be a surprise. We're talking about huge environmental concerns, really weak copyright protection, not to mention all the fraud, and then there's the fact that they can be almost impossible to sell. These are the big roadblocks that have kept the tech from really earning mainstream trust. All right, so with all those challenges on the table, it's time to turn the page to a potential new chapter. Let's talk about something called the Limited Edition Digital Book, or for short, the LEDB. So what exactly is an LEDB? Well, at its heart, it's a digital asset that pairs a visual, usually a famous piece of art, with unique descriptive text. And here's the key. It's created as a semi-fungible token. Now, that's a huge difference. Instead of just one owner for one thing, a single edition can have tons of verified owners, like, say, 10,000 identical provable copies. And here's the perfect way to picture it. You take an iconic painting that's in the public domain, like the Starry Night, and you pair it with brand new original text. That combination creates something totally new and, this is so important, something that you can actually copyright. So you're probably wondering, how is this even possible? Well, the answer is under the hood. It all comes down to a much more advanced generation of blockchain technology that actually solves a lot of the problems we just talked about. The tech behind this is a massive leap forward. You see, old NFTs used a standard called ERC 721, which meant one unique token, one owner. Simple, but clunky. This new standard, ERC 1155, is what allows for that semi-fungibility. One contract can spit out thousands of identical copies. The results? Way lower transaction fees, you can transfer them in batches, and it even has a built-in safety net to recover tokens if you send them to the wrong address. I mean, it is a huge upgrade across the board. And what's cool is this new format gives you options in how you collect. You've basically got two different flavors when it comes to building out your digital library. So over on the left, you see a story token. The idea here is you collect them in order, and the text from each one builds on the last to tell a big overarching story, like the Battle of Waterloo. Then on the right, you have a standalone token, where the art and the text make up one complete piece all by itself, like this one about the birth of Venus. And this is the secret sauce right here. The images might be famous stuff anyone can use, but that newly written text is totally unique and original. That's what gives it real copyright protection and elevates the LEDB from just being a JPEG to being a real substantive piece of media. Okay, cool concept, cool tech, but let's talk about what really matters to a lot of people, the money. How does any of this actually translate into real value? Well, it all comes down to the proven, time-tested power of scarcity. Just look at this number for a second. $6 million. That is what a single copy of the very first Superman comic, Action Comics #1, sold for back in April of 2024. The value there isn't the paper it's printed on. It's about provable rarity and its place in our culture. And that is the exact same principle LEDBs are designed to tap into. By creating a limited run of, say, 10,000 copies, they're introducing verifiable digital scarcity. Every single owner can prove, on the blockchain, that their copy is part of that original, limited run. It's just like owning a first edition book. And here is where it gets really, really clever. With a one-of-one NFT, you have one person hyping it up. But with 10,000 owners of an LEDB, you suddenly have 10,000 ambassadors all sharing their asset on social media. It creates this massive network effect that actually works to drive up the value for everyone involved. But I get it. Maybe you're hearing this and thinking, okay, this sounds pretty interesting, but I have zero interest in setting up a crypto wallet or dealing with all that complicated stuff. Well, turns out there's a familiar model for that too. An exchange-traded fund, an ETF, could totally handle this. It would basically act as a middleman, taking care of all the tricky parts like buying the LEDs and storing them securely. As an investor, you get all the benefits like professional help and fraud protection without any of the technical headaches. And specifically, there's this really smart setup called a grantor trust model that's perfect for this. Let me break it down. 1. The ETF buys and holds the digital books for everyone. 2. The investors get a real legal ownership stake. 3. And this is the magic. That feeling of ownership makes them want to share it on social media. And 4. All that sharing becomes free advertising that boosts the value for every single person in the fund. It's a brilliant cycle.
So let's pull all these threads together. What does all this mean for the future of digital collectibles? And who knows, maybe even for publishing itself? When you boil it all down, the advantages are pretty compelling. By blending education with respected art, LEDs build a much better reputation. They appeal to a way wider audience. We're talking traditional investors and book lovers, not just crypto diehards. They create a more valuable asset by merging text and art, and it's legally protected. And maybe most importantly, their value is powered by an entire community of owners, not just one person. It's a really fascinating evolution of the whole idea, right? It turns digital ownership from this niche, kind of weird hobby into something that feels more like building a classic personal library. So I guess the only question left is, could your next favorite book be one you own on the blockchain?